In the world of daytime television, few moments have ever stunned viewers quite like this one. What was meant to be a cheerful, feel-good interview turned into a dramatic showdown that left audiences speechless. The day Sir Cliff Richard stormed off Loose Women became a defining moment in British pop culture. A clash between tradition and modernity, faith and freedom, respect and rebellion. Like, before we move on, don't forget to hit subscribe button. Sir Cliff Richard, often hailed as Britain's answer to Elvis Presley, has been a household name for more than 60 years. With his polished image, heartfelt faith, and countless hits like Living Doll and Devil Woman, he's been admired by generations. Cliff built his career on charm, discipline, and optimism, a beacon of old-school entertainment values. But even legends can find themselves blindsided by the unpredictable nature of live television. Loose Women, ITV's popular lunchtime talk show, is known for its lively panel of outspoken hosts. The mix of humor, honesty, and heated debate keeps millions tuning in daily. Among the regulars is Denise Welch, actress, advocate, and no stranger to controversy. Famous for her candid opinions and openness about mental health and addiction, she represents the unapologetic voice of a more progressive Britain. When Cliff was invited on the show to discuss his new album and reflect on his decades-long career, no one expected sparks to fly. The studio audience was buzzing that day. Cliff, ever the gentleman, arrived in a sharp tailored suit, his trademark smile lighting up the set. Denise greeted him warmly, but there was a flicker of tension. That subtle, almost invisible energy that precedes a storm. The interview began smoothly, filled with nostalgia about Cliff's early career, his faith, and the golden era of British pop. But then, the conversation shifted to something more volatile: his views on modern music and social change. Cliff expressed his belief that entertainment has lost some of its innocence, that family values, respect, and faith once guided the industry. It was a sincere reflection, but Denise couldn't resist challenging him. With her usual boldness, she questioned whether those traditional values might actually exclude the very diversity that modern society celebrates. Her tone was sharp but controlled, and Cliff, though polite, stood his ground. What began as a discussion turned into a debate, and then a full-blown clash of ideologies. Cliff insisted he wasn't judging anyone, merely sharing his principles. Denise countered that such views can feel dismissive to communities fighting for equality and acceptance. The audience reacted audibly, some nodding in agreement with Denise's modern outlook, others booing in defense of Cliff's old-school charm. The tension thickened. The hosts tried to cool things down, steering the talk back to music, but the air was charged. Cliff's calm began to waver. Denise's determination only grew. And then came the moment that changed everything. Denise brought up Cliff's past, his traumatic experience with false accusations in 2014, a chapter he had fought to move past. Though she didn't go into detail, the mere mention was enough to shift the energy in the room. Cliff froze for a second, visibly hurt. His composure cracked. He looked toward the producers off camera, then back at the panel, his voice trembling slightly as he said, "I won't sit here and be disrespected." The studio went silent. Gasps echoed from the audience as Cliff stood up, removed his microphone, and walked off the set. Cameras kept rolling, capturing every second of his dignified but painful exit. Denise sat still, a mixture of shock and defiance on her face. Clips of the confrontation were replayed millions of times. Some viewers praised Denise for challenging outdated beliefs, calling her brave for speaking her truth. Others condemned her for attacking a national treasure, arguing she had crossed a line. ITV issued a statement later that day, expressing regret for how the segment unfolded and apologizing to anyone who found it uncomfortable. Cliff's management released a short message thanking fans for their overwhelming support. reminding everyone that he stood for kindness and respect. Denise, unapologetic as ever, took to Instagram to defend her comments, insisting that open dialogue, even uncomfortable dialogue, was necessary for progress. The fallout was immense. Loose women's ratings soared overnight, and discussions about generational divides, respect, and political correctness flooded online forums. Meanwhile, interest in Cliff's music skyrocketed. Streams of his classics jumped by thousands of percent, proving that controversy can sometimes revive even the most established careers. This wasn't just a celebrity spat. It was a mirror held up to society, a reflection of the tension between old and new Britain, between those who long for a world of simple faith and manners, and those fighting for a world that embraces every identity and belief. In that moment, Cliff Richard and Denise Welch became symbols of two eras colliding on live television. In the end, both walked away unchanged in conviction, but forever linked in controversy. The incident remains one of the most talked about moments in modern British TV, a reminder that even in a world of carefully managed appearances, raw emotion and clashing ideals can still steal the spotlight. When Cliff Richard walked off the Loose Women set that afternoon, it wasn't just a guest leaving an interview. It was a cultural earthquake. Within minutes, clips of the moment were circulating online like wildfire. Fans, critics, journalists, everyone had an opinion, and none of them held back. What happened on live television became a national conversation about respect, cancel culture, and whether Britain had become too divided to talk to itself anymore. One side praised Denise Welch for holding her ground and speaking truth to power, calling her brave for confronting a public figure who, in their view, symbolized outdated attitudes. The other side accused her of ambushing a beloved entertainer and turning an interview into an interrogation. By the end of the day, the clip had been viewed more than 10 million times across platforms, spawning endless reaction videos, memes, and heated debates. ITV's press team scrambled to contain the situation. That evening, they released a carefully worded statement expressing regret for any discomfort caused during the live broadcast and reaffirming their commitment to open and respectful discussion. But the wording did little to cool things down. Every morning show, tabloid, and entertainment site in the UK led with the same story. Cliff Richard walks out on Loose Women. Meanwhile, Cliff himself maintained a calm, dignified silence. His team issued a brief note thanking fans for their kindness and understanding, adding that Cliff was deeply saddened by the tone of the discussion, but grateful for the overwhelming support shown by the public. For someone who had survived the scrutiny of false accusations and media intrusion in the past, this incident was yet another painful reminder of how quickly reputations can become talking points. Denise, on the other hand, faced the storm head-on. The very next day, she went live on Instagram, explaining that her comments were never meant as an attack, but as part of a necessary conversation about inclusivity and progress. Her followers applauded her honesty, while critics accused her of backpedaling. But Denise stood firm, stating, "If we can't challenge ideas respectfully, then what's the point of discussion television?" Behind the headlines, something fascinating happened. Cliff's music began trending again. Streams of summer holiday and congratulations soared overnight. His official YouTube channel gained tens of thousands of new subscribers. Even younger audiences, many of whom had never heard of him before, started exploring his back catalog out of curiosity. Ironically, the same argument that bruised his pride also reignited his relevance. Commentators across the media spectrum weighed in. Some called the exchange a generational standoff, the baby boomer icon defending the world he knew, versus the Gen X activist championing the one she hoped to build. Others saw it as a broader metaphor for Britain's identity crisis, a country torn between nostalgia and progress, civility and confrontation. Newspapers ran think pieces with headlines like "The Day Politeness Died on Daytime TV" and "Cliff Richard and the Culture War." Psychologists and media experts even joined the discussion, suggesting that the explosive reaction wasn't just about two celebrities. It was about everyone watching. Cliff represented the comfort of tradition, a moral compass, from a simpler time. Denise embodied the defiance of a modern world demanding to be heard. Viewers weren't just reacting to a TV argument, they were projecting their own values, fears, and frustrations onto it. And while the media frenzy eventually quieted down, the ripple effects lasted for months. Loose Women enjoyed a massive ratings boost, but ITV quietly tightened its live broadcast protocols, ensuring that future interviews had clearer boundaries. Behind the scenes, producers reportedly reached out to Cliff's management to smooth things over, though he never returned to the show. Denise continued to be outspoken about mental health and equality, doubling down on her belief that challenging conversations shouldn't be silenced. Meanwhile, Cliff channeled the experience into his work, releasing a heartfelt statement months later about forgiveness, resilience, and staying true to one's faith. That message struck a chord with fans who admired his grace under pressure. In the long run, this confrontation became more than just television drama. It became a case study in how modern media amplifies conflict. What once might have been a brief studio disagreement evolved into a national debate, dissected frame by frame, shared millions of times, and immortalized in digital history. It reminded everyone how fragile public discourse can be when emotion meets exposure. Today, the clip remains one of Loose Women's most watched moments. Comment sections beneath it still rage with opposing viewpoints years later. Some see it as a triumph of free expression. Others view it as a cautionary tale about respect and empathy. But one truth stands out. It was real. It was unscripted. It was the kind of raw human moment that no PR team could ever manufacture. In the end, the clash between Cliff Richard and Denise Welch wasn't just about music, politics, or even manners. It was about the collision of two worldviews, one rooted in faith and legacy, the other in progress and transparency. Two strong personalities, both unapologetically themselves, meeting on live television and refusing to back down. And that's why, years later, we're still talking about it. Because beneath the controversy lies something far deeper, a reflection of who we are, what we value, and how we handle disagreement when the whole world is watching. The fallout from the Loose Women showdown didn't end with trending hashtags or viral clips. In the weeks that followed, the story took on a life of its own, spreading far beyond entertainment news. It wasn't just about Cliff Richard or Denise Welch anymore. It had become a mirror for the cultural tensions simmering beneath Britain's polished civility. And as the dust began to settle, both stars found themselves standing at crossroads they hadn't planned for. Cliff Richard retreated quietly from the spotlight in the immediate aftermath. Friends described him as hurt but resolute, choosing reflection over retaliation. After 6 decades of near unshakable professionalism, the incident had rattled even him. For someone whose career had survived scandals, shifting trends, and the relentless glare of fame, this on-air conflict hit differently. It wasn't just criticism. It was public humiliation, broadcast live and replayed endlessly. Yet Cliff chose silence, a move that, in hindsight, only deepened public sympathy. Weeks later, Cliff resurfaced in a pre-recorded interview with the BBC, where he addressed the ordeal for the first time. He spoke calmly, saying, "I believe in forgiveness. We all get caught in moments where emotions overtake us. What matters is how we move on." His words, soft yet steady, struck a chord with the public. Viewers saw not a defeated man, but a dignified one. Newspapers that once thrived on controversy now praised his composure, with one headline reading, "Sir Cliff takes the high road." Behind the scenes, though, Cliff's team faced a dilemma: how to rebuild his public image without appearing defensive. They leaned into what had always defined him: positivity, faith, and perseverance. His official social media pages became havens of gratitude posts, nostalgic throwbacks, and uplifting quotes. Fans responded with overwhelming affection, flooding the comments with messages of support and stories about how his music had shaped their lives. In a strange twist of fate, the argument that once tarnished his image now reignited his bond with his audience. Meanwhile, Denise Welch found herself on the opposite side of the media spectrum, adored and attacked in equal measure. Her phone didn't stop ringing. News outlets wanted interviews, podcasts invited her to speak her truth, and talk shows debated whether she was a villain or a voice of progress. Denise, never one to hide, stepped up to every microphone. She clarified her intentions again and again, insisting she respected Cliff but refused to tiptoe around uncomfortable topics. Her unapologetic stance resonated with younger audiences. Social media users praised her for challenging authority and confronting what they called outdated celebrity immunity. But for every supporter, there was a critic. Some accused her of grandstanding, others of cruelty. The backlash grew intense enough that Denise briefly deactivated her Twitter account, later returning with a statement that read, "If honesty offends people, I can live with that. Silence offends me more." As the controversy matured, public figures began weighing in. Piers Morgan tweeted in defense of Cliff, calling the exchange a disgraceful ambush of a national treasure. Conversely, singer Lily Allen applauded Denise, tweeting that women who challenge icons are always painted as hysterical, even when they're right. The culture war lines were drawn once again, and Loose Women found itself at the epicenter of Britain's ongoing debate about free speech and respectability. Inside ITV, the incident prompted quiet introspection. Producers reviewed how the show handled high-profile guests, with new policies introduced to ensure balanced and respectful discussion. Behind closed doors, staff admitted the episode had changed the show forever. Ratings remained high, but so did tension among the hosts. Some panelists felt the program had lost its warmth. Others believed it had finally become relevant again. Cliff, meanwhile, turned his pain into art. His next album, released months later, featured songs about endurance, faith, and personal rebirth. One track, titled "Still Standing Tall," became a quiet anthem for resilience. In interviews promoting the record, he avoided mentioning Denise or the show directly, but often hinted at lessons learned. "Sometimes storms come to test your roots," he said in one interview, "and that's when you find out how strong you really are." Denise continued her advocacy work, expanding her focus on mental health awareness. Ironically, the Loose Women controversy gave her new depth as a public figure. People began to see her less as a firebrand and more as someone unafraid to live transparently, flaws and all. She launched a podcast discussing honesty in media and mental wellness, where she subtly referenced, "The day honesty cost me comfort, but gained me clarity." Over time, the chaos cooled into reflection. When journalists revisited the event a year later, the tone had softened. What once read like scandal now felt like a lesson. A moment when two generations collided live on air, each representing something Britain needed to reconcile within itself. The idea that both Cliff and Denise could be right in their own ways began to take hold. Cliff's grace symbolized endurance. Denise's fire symbolized progress. In retrospect, it wasn't really about who won or lost that argument. It was about what it revealed. That even icons and outspoken voices can be human, emotional, and imperfect. That our culture is still learning how to disagree without destroying. Today, the clip still circulates online, a digital artifact from a time when television accidentally captured something raw and real. Fans continue to debate it, analyze it, and relive it. But for both Cliff Richard and Denise Welch, It became something more profound, a reminder that authenticity, even when painful, leaves a lasting legacy. In the end, both walked away, changed, not defeated, not diminished, but redefined. Cliff became a symbol of resilience in an age obsessed with outrage. Denise became a torchbearer for fearless honesty in the face of backlash. Together, they wrote an unscripted chapter of British pop culture that will be studied, replayed, and remembered for decades to come. If you like this video, then subscribe.